You've passed the test, chosen one. Yes, you. You've walked through fire that would have consumed anyone else. You've stood in storms that left others shattered. You've bled in silence, cried behind closed doors, watched everything fall apart, and still somehow you kept standing. The world called it bad luck. Your mind called it too much, but heaven called it preparation, because none of it was wasted. Every betrayal, every breakdown, every night you questioned if you'd make it to the morning was a divine classroom. Sacred forge where your soul was being refined, not destroyed, and now that the fire has done its work, now that the storm has passed and the ashes have settled, you are being called forward, because it's time to finally hear the truth about who you are, why you're here, and the extraordinary destiny that's been etched into your spirit since before your first breath. This is not just another message. This is a divine unveiling, a sacred moment between your soul and God, where everything begins to make sense. That weight you've carried, it wasn't punishment. That pain in your past, it wasn't a mistake. It was training for the kind of purpose that terrifies hell and awakens heaven. You weren't made to blend in. You weren't sent here to live a quiet life of survival. You were created to shift atmospheres, to walk with fire in your eyes and glory on your name. You are a chosen one, handcrafted by God for such a time as this. And yes, you've been through things that should have broken you, but instead, they revealed you. They woke you up. And now, heaven is opening to show you what comes next. Before we dive into the revelation, pause for just a second. If something deep inside you is already stirring, if your spirit feels like it's remembering something it never learned, drop a simple 7 in the comments. That number carries divine meaning, completion, alignment, and spiritual release. Let it be your signal to heaven, I'm ready, and if you haven't yet, subscribe now. Join thousands of awakened souls reclaiming their light, because what's coming next is going to change everything. Stay with me until the end, because this isn't theory. This is your confirmation. Now let's go deeper. Let's talk about that feeling you've carried your whole life, that quiet knowing that you were born for something more, that you never truly fit in because you weren't meant to. You've always felt it, haven't you? Even as a child, before the world gave you labels, expectations, or rules, you knew. You sensed something was different. You looked around and tried to understand how everyone else could live in shallow waters while you were drowning in the depths. You saw things others ignored. You felt emotions in high definition. You noticed silence louder than words, and maybe you tried to explain it once, only to be met with confusion. So you stayed quiet, but that ache never left. That feeling that this world wasn't home, that your heart didn't quite beat in rhythm with the rest of humanity. It wasn't a flaw, it wasn't trauma, it was the blueprint of your soul. You were never meant to fit in, because you were designed to break patterns. God didn't form you in the image of comfort. He carved you out of fire and revelation. Before your body was formed in the womb, your spirit stood in the presence of the Almighty. And in that realm beyond time and space, He showed you what was coming and asked, "Will you go?" And you said yes. You chose to come into this world not to be like them, but to awaken them, to disturb the sleep, to carry light into places where light had been forgotten. That's why the world has never known what to do with you. You're too soft to be hardened, too deep to be shallow, too awake to pretend you don't see what's really happening. You've spent your life trying to shrink, to blend, to explain yourself in small words. But your soul was built in the language of prophets. Your sensitivity is not weakness, it's a sacred instrument. Your empathy is not fragility, it's a divine radar. Your resistance to conformity is not rebellion, it's remembrance. every time you felt like the outsider. You were actually standing on holy ground, as separate but not lost, hidden but not forgotten, marked but not yet revealed, because chosen ones aren't born into spotlight. They're born into refinement, and the ones who carry the blueprint of heaven always feel a little too heavy for the world, until the moment comes when they finally realize, I wasn't sent here to adapt. I was sent here to awaken. And now, beloved, that moment is here. Everything you've lived, everything you've endured, has been leading to this unveiling. But if you were designed, who designed you? And if there's a blueprint inside, where did it come from? In the next part of our journey, we'll explore what divine preparation really means, and how your lowest valleys were actually holy corridors, guiding you to the very throne of your purpose. Chosen one, if you've walked through deep pain, you need to understand something right now. It wasn't random, it wasn't punishment, and it wasn't because you were forgotten. It was strategy. You were being moved by the hand of God through places that didn't look like purpose, but were purpose in disguise. Because before every elevation, there is always an exile. Before glory, there is a grave. Before the crown, there is the crushing. Before the palace, there is the pit. Just ask Joseph. He was chosen, marked by dreams from heaven, destined to save nations. But the first door that opened for him was the one that led to betrayal. He was thrown into a pit by his own brothers, sold as a slave, falsely accused, imprisoned and forgotten. To the world, he looked like a failure, but in heaven, he was right on schedule. Because while men were writing him off, God was writing him into destiny. Every step of Joseph's pain was a stairway to his position. And when the time came, he didn't just rise, he was summoned in you. A single moment, everything shifted, and Joseph didn't just survive, he reigned. Not in spite of the pit, but because of it. Now look at your own story, the betrayal. That was pruning, the false accusations. That was spiritual training in discernment, the abandonment. It was God removing every false foundation so that your faith would stand on nothing but Him. The silence you felt wasn't rejection. It was God concealing you while He constructed the next chapter of your life in realms you couldn't yet see, because the palace was always coming. But you had to be ready to rule when you arrived. Chosen one, you haven't been walking in circles. You've been walking through God's process. He didn't test you to watch you fail. He tested you to prove what He already knew about you, to draw out the faith you didn't know you had, to reveal the strength that only suffering could activate. You weren't being punished. You were being positioned. And now, something is shifting. The same God who allowed the storm is now speaking peace over your season. The same hand that permitted the wilderness is now pointing toward the promised land. Because you've been faithful, you've passed the test, and now the door is opening, but not just to peace, not just to survival. The next door opens to overflow, because after every divine refinement comes a divine reward. And in the next part of this journey, you'll see what's on the other side of your endurance as the heavens open and your season of miracles begins. You can feel it, can't you? Something is shifting. The air feels charged. The silence that once felt endless now trembles with expectancy, because after the wilderness, after the tests, the tears, the crushing, comes the awakening. This is not just another season. This is the one your soul has been trained for, the one heaven whispered about in your dreams, the one the enemy tried to delay but couldn't. You're not waiting for the breakthrough anymore. You're standing in it. This is the season where long-awaited prayers become real, where what you only saw in the spirit begins to take form in the natural, where the no turns into now, where the almost becomes more than enough. God is releasing a kind of blessing that doesn't trickle, it pours. Malachi 3:10 says, "I will open the windows of heaven and pour out so much blessing that there will not be room enough to store it." That's not poetry, that's prophetic architecture. It's the framework of what God is building in your life right now. This is the season of the floodgates, where doors you forgot, you knocked on, suddenly swing open, where opportunities you didn't even ask for come looking for you, where healing flows into places you thought would never recover. You see, chosen one, you were never meant to just survive. God didn't put you through the fire just so you could live a life of barely enough. You are a child of overflow, of pressed down, shaken together, running over blessings, of answered prayers that don't just restore, they multiply. Financial doors are unlocking. Connections are aligning. Divine relationships are forming. And peace, deep, soul-resting peace, is flooding your spirit again. This is not a false hope. This is divine fulfillment, because your obedience has planted seeds in soil the world couldn't see. And now, heaven is sending the rain. The ground is breaking open. The harvest is rising. But don't look for it where you used to. The blessings coming in this season won't fit in old containers. You'll need new wineskins, new vision, new faith, because God isn't just restoring what was lost, He's exceeding it. This is the awakening season, the moment where everything heaven wrote for you starts manifesting in front of your eyes. So, stay alert. Speak boldly. Walk expectantly, because the floodgates have opened, and nothing can hold back what God is now releasing. But here's what you need to know next. Not everyone is celebrating your glow. There's a reason hell fought. You're becoming. And in the next part of our journey, you'll discover why your presence disturbs darkness, and how your light is built to confront it. Hell never feared your suffering. It feared your awakening, because once a chosen one remembers who they are, the atmosphere around them begins to shift. They no longer ask for permission. They command alignment. They don't beg for peace. They release it. They don't run from the dark. They carry a light that exposes it. And that's what's been happening to you. The enemy never attacked your past because of where you were. He attacked it because of where you're going. He saw your name echoing in heavenly places. He saw the oil on your voice, the fire in your presence, the weight of your call. And he panicked. So he tried to break you before you bloomed, tried to confuse you before you could step into clarity, tried to label you with rejection, abandonment, isolation, anything that would make you forget what you carry. But it didn't work. You're still here. And not only are you still standing, you're rising. Because authority isn't about volume, it's not about titles. True authority comes from alignment, from a spirit that refuses to bow to darkness. You were forged for this. Your tears carried power. Your warfare sharpened your discernment. Your brokenness became birth. And now, your very presence is prophetic. When you walk into a room, the atmosphere changes. People don't even know why they're drawn to you, or why others resist you without cause. But it's not you they're reacting to. It's the glory on you. The light you carry irritates what's still asleep in others. The truth you embody threatens every lie built in their comfort. The freedom you radiate shakes the chains they're still pretending aren't there. You are dangerous. To every stronghold, to every generational curse, to every demonic structure that counted on your silence. Because you don't just survive, you shift things. Your words open gates. Your presence exposes spirits. Your obedience pulls others out of the dark. You're not just a person. You're a conduit of heaven, a walking breach in the veil, a vessel carrying divine disruption, and hell knows it. So don't mistake resistance for failure. Don't confuse spiritual warfare with divine abandonment. Opposition often intensifies, right before manifestation, because what's coming through you is not ordinary. This world has seen influencers, teachers, preachers, but it's waiting for carriers of glory, and that's what you are. So if you've been feeling this fire inside you, this holy unrest, this sense that something ancient is rising within, drop a simple comment below. I carry the light. Let it be your declaration, your agreement with heaven, your reminder to every shadow that still tries to linger. You know who you are now, and you will not dim your fire to make darkness comfortable, because what's ahead of you next is not just power, it's acceleration. In the next part of this journey, you'll see how everything that once delayed you is now about to be realigned, restored, and released, faster than you ever imagined. Something has shifted. You can feel it in your bones. The winds aren't just changing direction, they're picking up speed. What used to take years is about to happen in days. What you thought would take a lifetime is already in motion. Because this is not a season of waiting, this is a season of acceleration. When God moves, he doesn't tiptoe, he speaks, and things align. He breathes, and doors fly open. He declares, and what was delayed for decades suddenly arrives in perfect order. That's where you are now. You're stepping into a realm where everything begins to catch up, where the things that were always yours but felt just out of reach suddenly start showing up without force. The right people, the right opportunities, the clarity, the resources, the peace. And you'll realize they were never absent. They were just being held until you were ready. Because restoration is not giving back what was taken. Restoration is God upgrading it while it was gone. You thought you lost years. He's about to compress time. You thought the relationship was dead. He's about to resurrect what's divine and remove what was counterfeit. You thought the dream had expired. He's about to breathe fresh wind into your vision and carry you places you couldn't even imagine before. This is the power of divine alignment, where heaven and earth begin to agree over you. Where your steps are no longer random but orchestrated. Where your delays weren't detours. They were divine redirections to something greater. And now the pieces start clicking into place. Suddenly, it all makes sense. The people who left, the closed doors, the tears you didn't understand at the time. It was all preparing you for this moment. You don't need to chase. You don't need to prove. You just need to stay in position. Because what's yours by assignment will find you in alignment. The shift is real. The pace is increasing. And all of heaven is echoing this one message to your spirit. Don't slow down now. You're walking in the prophecy. But before this chapter is complete, there's one last truth you must hear. One final unveiling to seal this awakening. The real reason you were sent to earth at this exact moment in history, and why your soul's mission is intertwined with the transformation of generations. You weren't just sent to be awakened, you were sent to awaken. Your life, with all its twists, trials, and triumphs, was designed to become a living mirror that reflects something holy back to those still asleep, because chosen ones are not called to be worshipped. They're called to be witnesses. You carry echoes of home in your voice. You radiate frequencies that bypass the mind and go straight to the soul. You speak, and something ancient stirs in the hearts of those who forgot who they are. Not because you have all the answers, but because your presence reminds them of their own questions. That's the mystery of your mission. Your healing opens space for theirs. Your light makes their darkness tremble. Your remembering helps them begin to recall their own divine blueprint. You are a walking key, sent to unlock the forgotten places in others. And that's why your path was so hard. That's why your tears were so deep. That's why your silence was so long. Because God wasn't just forming a testimony, he was forming a frequency, a resonance, a vibration in your being that would silently declare, I've been through the fire, and I carry the flame, You didn't just survive, you were refined. And now your words hold weight, your compassion carries healing, your presence creates shift. People will feel safer around you without knowing why. Strangers will open their hearts to you without knowing how. They'll say, "There's something about you." And there is. It's not charm, it's not charisma, it's presence. Divine presence. A residue of glory, a whisper of God's love in human form. Because when He sent you, He didn't just send a person, He sent a message, a reminder, a spark, a vibration that says to the world, "You haven't been forgotten, the light is still here, and it lives in you too." So never doubt the impact of your presence, never underestimate the power of your survival, and never believe the lie that your light is too small, because the flame you carry was lit in eternity, and now it burns in time, igniting hearts that have been cold for too long. Chosen one, your remembering is a portal for theirs. And in the final part of our journey, you'll discover why this exact moment in history needed your presence, your fire, your mission, more than ever before. Chosen one, nothing in your story was random. Not the pain, not the silence, not the waiting. Not even the moments when you thought you were lost, because heaven never lost sight of you. Before time had shape, before breath filled your lungs, before you knew how to say the word purpose, you were already marked by it. There was a covenant made in eternity between your soul and the voice that spoke the stars into motion. And in that divine moment, you said yes. You said, "Send me to the darkness, and I will bring the light. Send me to the broken, and I will carry healing. Send me to the silence, and I will release sound. I will walk the earth, clothed in flesh, but burning with remembrance." That's why you never fit in. That's why the world always felt a little too shallow for the depth inside you. Because you weren't made to blend in, you were made to awaken. The ache you've carried wasn't just personal, it was prophetic. The tears you cried weren't weakness, they were baptisms. Every rejection carved space for divine redirection. Every heartbreak broke open new dimensions in your spirit. Every wilderness was a womb where glory was forming in silence. And now, the silence has ended. You're standing at the threshold of fulfillment, not because you chased it, but because you were called to it. This moment in history didn't happen to you. You were sent to it. You came carrying medicine, words, frequencies, visions, wisdoms that this generation has forgotten how to access. You are a walking reminder of what heaven looks like when it takes human form. You're not perfect. You were never meant to be. But you are precise, positioned, anointed, sent. And now the heavens are thundering in agreement with your rising. Creation has been groaning for the unveiling of souls like yours. And the time is now. So lift your head, speak with boldness, walk in light, move in love, and never again question your place. Because the mark you carry, whether on your palm or your soul, is a seal of purpose and your presence here. It's a divine interruption, a holy activation, a sign that the new era has begun. Let this message be your turning point. Let it stir what's ancient in you. Let it awaken the sacred vow your soul made before it ever wore skin. Because chosen one, the world is no longer waiting. It's ready. And now, so are you. Welcome to the remembering. Welcome to the rising. Welcome to the reason you were sent. If this truth resonates within you, type "I was sent" in the comments. And if you're walking this path with us, subscribe now and stay close. Your journey is just beginning. Thank you for being here. Thank you for remembering. Until next time. Walk in light, stay in truth, and never forget who you are.